Hi, I'm Kevin.
And I'm Timo, and we are two members of a group of medical students at the University of Groningen in the Netherlands. For our bachelor project, we researched the effects of diet on glycogen storage disease type 1A. Using our findings, we tried to come up with the ultimate worry-free pizza recipe for GSD 1A patients.
So our study looked at blood fat levels, as well as the effect that cholesterol in your blood can have in your body, for example, by the development of atherosclerosis. Now, atherosclerosis is linked to some pretty severe events such as heart attack or strokes, and naturally we want to avoid these kind of events as the patients get older. So if you look online, a lot of websites actually advertise the keto diet for GSD type 1A patients because of how little carbohydrates the meals contain. We found out that not only is sugar the culprit, but also high fat levels, so we want to avoid both. And that's why the keto diet isn't really ideal, because the keto diet has a very high fat content. So what our aim is to try and find recipes which are both low in carbohydrates as well as fat. But please remember that everything that you find online can be written by anyone. You should maybe take them with a little grain of salt, and it's actually best that you follow the dietary advice from your dietitian or doctor. Keeping our findings in mind, we tried designing this low-carb, low-fat pizza that you can bake at home whenever you want and even store some for later. But without further ado, let's head to the kitchen and get started. The first step for head chef Timo is to preheat the oven to 180 degrees Celsius. To replace a traditional pizza dough, we will use cauliflower. Cauliflower is great, since it can work great as a pizza crust while not containing too many carbohydrates or sugars. Alternatively, if you're someone who is tight on time, store-bought cauliflower rice exists in most supermarkets. Start by removing the green parts of the cauliflower as well as the stem and cut into florets. We'll store that in a bowl and set aside. The next step is to soften the cauliflower up. You can steam it in your oven if your oven has such a function, or simply use a steamer or even boil them for 8 minutes. Once it's done, we can set it aside to cool completely. Let's start preparing our sauce in the meantime. Speaking of the sauce, there's bad news. And that is that tomatoes have a very high sugar content, which means that classic marinara sauce is out of the question. But the good news is there's a pretty solid substitute to tomatoes: bell peppers. Cut them in half, remove the seeds and stems, and then dice them up so they're ready to be roasted in a baking tray. Next up is a red onion, which will be peeled and chopped up roughly. You can save some thin slices as topping for a pizza. Add it to the baking tray. And a clove of garlic, peel it and slice it and throw it into the baking tray as well. Now we quickly move over to the toppings. What kind of toppings are we looking for? We're looking for ingredients with the lowest possible amount of sugar and preferably also fat, which of course also go well on a pizza. The best way to check out the sugar and fat contents is by looking at the nutrition fact labels at the back of your product. We'll be using chicken, the previously cut red onion, mushrooms, spinach, and rocket for this pizza. Take a couple of mushrooms and cut them to your desired thickness. Take a couple of handfuls of spinach and roughly chop that up as well. The chicken will be chopped into bite-sized pieces. Add the chicken to the roasting tray with the vegetables, season to taste, and also add whatever nice things you can find in a spice rack. We use some fresh lemon juice, chili powder, paprika, oregano, and of course, a generous amount of kosher salt and pepper. Tiny whisk together to combine. Then it's headed into the 180 degree Celsius oven for 40 minutes. Now that the cauliflower is cooled down, let's blend it up until it reaches a rice-like consistency. To avoid a soggy pizza base, Squeeze it dry using a tablecloth or whatever thin type of fabric you got lying around. Crack open 2 large eggs and once again use a tiny whisk to combine, and once again season to taste. We'll prepare a baking tray with a sheet of parchment paper and carefully shape part of the cauliflower egg mixture into a circular pizza shape. Once the vegetables are out of the oven, put the chicken in a different bowl and realize that you need a bigger bowl. Then set the chicken aside to use as a topping. The rest of the baking tray goes straight into the blender, along with some basil and vegetable stock until it reaches a consistency you can work with. Set aside the roasted pepper sauce and let it cool completely. Also, don't try to spill everything. Now the oven is free and ready for the first cauliflower pizza base. Bake these in the oven for around 30 minutes. That is until the crust is delicious golden brown. Then flip it and bake the other side for another 10 minutes. Now all that is left is to assemble the pizza. Spread a thin layer of sauce on the cauliflower pizza base. Not too much, since there still is a bit of sugar in the peppers. Then, throw on the toppings of your choice. We use mushrooms, chicken, red onion, and spinach. We decided to top it all with vegan mozzarella cheese, since it basically contains zero sugar. Leftover cauliflower bases can easily be kept in the freezer and used again in the future, as can the roasted pepper sauce. And now finally, we bake the pizzas in the oven or on a pizza stone if you have one for about 5 to 7 minutes at 180 degrees Celsius until the crust is nice and crispy and the cheese has melted. Garnish with some fresh basil or rocket and serve. Wow, there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. A delicious, low-carb, low-fat pizza that definitely does not compromise any flavor. And remember, you can always switch out any ingredients you want as long as you stick to the advices given to you by your doctor or dietitian. And if you like, you can just try this out at home. The recipe is down below in the description. So thank you very much for watching, and please don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment down below what your favorite GSD recipe is. Now let's go.
Are you happy with that?
Yeah, can I try the pizza now?